G'day, team. Today I want to dive into the emotional roller coaster when it comes to raising capital. And I say this with pure love and heart when I talk about this emotional roller coaster with raising capital. Bit of a background, I went through a capital raising process myself personally in 2020, 2021. I think even over 2022, to be honest. There is a lot involved. And so today, as we're diving into raising capital for one of the companies I'm involved in, run with. It's an amazing conversation to have. It's an amazing process to go through. We've created a pitch deck. We're preparing it to send off to investors, and then we dive into the conversation of who will lead the charge to pitch run with to investors. And it was at that moment my chest just like tightened, and I got all this anxiety built up, and I was like, what the hell is happening to me right now? And off the back of a conversation with my cousin recently, it was because I've not been drinking and I've not been eating junk food, and my mind is really wide, and I can sense and get feeling from my body like immediately. And this happened this morning, and I was like, oh wow, why is this happening to me? And I realized it's because I know what it takes to raise capital. It's a lot of fucking effort, like a lot of effort. And when that happened, I was like, I know in one, like I've got like that angel and devil, right? I know on one side, I'm like, I really, really want to do it because I love it. Like I love the process I went through. I love raising capital. I love pitching. I love the public speaking, the meeting investors, essentially all around the world. I just love the learning process, right? Learning about, you learn more about yourself, you learn more about the product, you learn more about the audience, you learn more about your customers. Like it's a really good experience to go through. So on one side, I was like, I really want to do this. And the other side was like, that means I got to give up everything else in my life. And not just one thing, not just two things. I've got to give up everything. And when you go through this process, and if you've ever raised capital before, you'll understand this. And if you haven't, then I highly recommend you really think deeply about this, right? You're committing full time. And when I say you're committing full time, you're essentially saying no to everything else in your life, and you're committing and you're going on, because it's not just about pitching your idea to an investor and raising capital. It's about that process you've got to go through. It's the learning process you've got to go through. It's the iteration after iteration after iteration. I'm pretty sure I've spent over 1,000 hours on my pitch deck in that time frame, and that's not joking. It's not just pulling a number out of the air, like literally 1,000 hours. Because after every single pitch that you do, you mentally take notes. Now we can record them and use AI to translate for us. But back then, mentally take notes. You then have to review those notes, then go do all the research, then go and update your pitch deck. And it's 2-3 hours gone after every single pitch. So like it literally takes thousands of hours. That's a big commitment. So I guess reflecting on this moment, and obviously internally we had this discussion, who's going to lead the charge. Immediately I was like, yeah, definitely not me. It definitely needs to be someone else in the company for that reason. But it got me thinking about this conversation, how this conversation needs to be understood by everyone else out there. And I get phone calls on a weekly basis with people who have ideas to build apps, have ideas to launch a business, have ideas to take their concept and go global. When you're committing to something like this, you need to make sure you're committing 100%. And why I say that is a lot of side hustles happen, and side hustles are perfectly fine. It's really hard to do two things or three things well. You do it mediocre, you do it okay, but it's really hard to do it extremely well. And so you need to understand that when you are going through a raising capital process, it is very time consuming. So you need to make sure, it's not just a part-time job. You have to go all in. The emotional investment, the emotional roller coaster you're about to go on, you need to be prepared for. Absolutely, you need to be prepared. It's a process, right? It's an absolute process. And you're about to go through the biggest ups and the biggest downs that you've never experienced before. And there is no way to even compare this, right? Like you're about to go through it. So please be prepared for that. And you need to make strategic decisions on the fly. And you need to understand your limitations, your capacities, and you need to be able to say say yes to things and no to things really quickly. But I think the biggest thing actually is knowing when to answer a question confidently and knowing when to answer the question and say, actually, I don't know the answers to that, but I'll find out for you and get back to you. As soon as you start pretending to know the answer, you're seen through in 2 seconds and you're dismissed. There is no chance raising capital from that particular person. So you got to get really good at knowing yourself, really good at knowing when to say yes and when to say no to. And so this is the whole experience to go through, and I could talk, for hours on this topic. But today's experience was a really good reminder of the complexities, the emotional roller coaster that you go through when you do raise capital, and it reinforces the importance of being really clear about your role in your organization and what you're going to delegate, what you're going to take a grasp of, and what you're going to provide that required time and energy to, right? So just want to say it's not for the faint-hearted, and you should definitely, I'm not saying don't do it, absolutely do it. Like if you need to raise capital for your business, absolutely do it. Just be prepared of what's coming next. And it's a super fun experience. I'll never regret going through the experience I went through. Absolutely loved it. Would I do it again? Absolutely. When I'm at a time that I'm raising capital and I can literally, everything else in my life gets put on hold and I'm just doing that, absolutely, I'll do it again. But never as a part-time gig. You don't give it the respect it actually requires. So that's my 2 cents today, and I'm really keen to hear from you guys. What's your experience? Have you gone through it? Have you experienced what I've experienced? Are you about to go through it? What does that mean for you in your life? Keen to just hear from you guys. All right, cheers, guys.